Grant, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Sure. And Father, we'll take a moment to pause and thank you for all that we're offered on a daily basis. We pray now that you'll watch over the business of the county as we come together to do what's right as always for the people that we serve. We ask as always that you'll lead, guide, and
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Toller? Mr. Foster? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Cool?
Having the forum, I'll call the meeting to order. This is a continuance of our regular meeting this past Friday for fiscal year 2020 budget discussions. That's the only item we will be discussing. So, having said that, I first want to express my gratitude and the board's gratitude to all the elected officials and various supervisors of various departments and so forth for doing an outstanding job, I think, as far as getting information and requests, especially from Angie, basically, in order to get this done in a timely manner. And the board really appreciates your efforts in working with her. I think it's been a tremendous success. Having said that, Andy, I'm going to let you take over here and do whatever you want to do here. We have the estimates on income for the year. Hopefully they're right. They're pretty close. Estimates on expenses.
All right. So just to let you know where we're at right now. Basically, I just went through all of our revenue accounts, looked at how they were projecting out, and then entered them all into our budget that you have there in front of you. A couple things to note. We are seeing a decrease in some of our fines. Our criminal fines are getting hit pretty hard. We normally come in around $90,000 for the year. I'm estimating next year to come in about $58,500, which actually may be a little high. Right now we are averaging $3,500 a month in criminal fines. So I've talked to a few people and do seem to think that could turn around and pick back up. So that's why I went with a little bit higher than what we're averaging now in hopes that it comes back up, but not quite as high as where we've been.
I'm not trying to interrupt you, but just for the record, is that not dependent on what the judges do as far as giving the maximum fine
Yes.
choice?
It is, and from what I have been told, a lot of the decrease was due to some changeover upstairs and some judges and even temporary state's attorney not familiar with what we need to set for fines here, and that's changing. So that's why the trend is hopefully on its way back up to where we can get at least closer to where we were coming in years past. But yes, it's all dependent on the fine set by the judge. So, and then it gets into the fees that we have, same fees that we always have. I will point out that we have two new revenue sources this year that are in the budget. One of them is for dispatch. If we have meetings and we can get the other municipalities on board, we've included an estimate for dispatch revenue. And the second revenue source that's in the budget is for the new cannabis tax. I will say that it's very conservative because I don't have a whole lot of information to base that on, the amount of money that we'll actually receive. And I recently found out that we don't get to start charging the tax until July. So this is only 5 months worth of revenue. I expect that to probably be higher, but just to be conservative and since we have some other factors in here we don't know either, it's kind of low. Let's see if there's anything else in here that's new for you guys. See, it was all pretty about the same. I will point out that we have the same amount of money in there for economic development. Last year we always give $1,000 to the CEO program, and we gave $5,000 to economic development. So if you want that number changed, you'll have to let me know, but we have the same budget in there as we did last year. When it was all said and done, this is what it left me to be able to transfer to capital. So that's basically how I've done the budget, is I figure out what's gonna come in, what we have to spend, and then what's left is what we can afford for new capital items. And then I just went through the budget, and like I said, put in what everybody's department is and what their expenses are. Let me go to some of the highlight ones those are requests, so that's why I'm skipping those for a minute. This was one that I was not sure of. I believe the coroner is one of the elected officials that is up this next round, and so you'll have to decide what you're setting the salary at, if you're setting it the same or differently. So if that was my comment there, is the salary changing? So, and when do you have to do that by? May of next year?
Maybe that is before the general.
How many?
180.
180 days, okay. So, this is another big change in the budget for this year, is our jail bill. It's, again, I've talked to you guys, I know we've talked a lot about it. It's a guess. We were coming in $35,000, $40,000 a month. Lately, we've been seeing 60,000, as high as 75,000. We're hoping that it's going to come back down a little. Right now, there's $52,000 a month in the budget for detention. However, there's another 100,000 up in contingencies in case we need it for the budget. So I believe, and I put that in your email, as long as the jail bill comes in $61,000 on average a month or less, our budget has enough money. If it comes in over that, we're gonna have to make some changes, because that's all that's in it. And I can't put any more in contingencies because the statute limits contingencies to 3% of your appropriations. So it has the maximum amount that I can put in there. I did also increase the juvenile detention budget. It doesn't look like it, but this is the amended budget. We actually started off last year budgeting 12.5. So this year I've got it up to 25,000. Again, if this one runs higher and this one's lower, we can move money between these or vice versa. Another change that is in the budget, the court expenses, the public defenders. Last year we had 2 full-time public defenders and 1 part-time public defender. The part-time public defender has left, and from what I'm understanding from talking to them upstairs, they do not plan to replace that position. They plan to just keep the 2 full-time public defenders. So it saved about $11,000 from last year. I put 10,000 of that down here because I figured if the public defenders, we have less public defenders, we're gonna have more outside legal counsel because of conflicts and stuff like that. So I kind of just moved their savings from there to here. They also requested for court, in case they have to subpoena someone to come in and pay for them for food or hotel or flight or anything like that, to have something in the budget to be able to code those expenses to. Since it's completely unknown, one year we may have nothing. And I think for the last couple years we've had nothing, and then this past year we did have some charges. So I have $500 in here with a note that says if they have more, we'll just have to pay it from contingencies. I don't think you want to hold up a bunch of money there when you might not spend any. Okay, so that's kind of a brief overview of this. Let me know if you want to stop me or you have any questions, which led us to this 254. So that was what we had left for capital, but we also started the year with about $5,000 left over in our capital budget too. So I believe this is the 3rd year, I think, for the sheriffs to police cars. So I think after this next year, these two are paid off. The ambulance, this was in the budget for this year too. He's got an ambulance that possibly will need a new engine. We're not replacing it until we know it needs it, but so since he didn't spend it this year, we're just carrying it over so that it's in there. Here is the $20,000 for the radio system that was in this year's budget that we did not spend out of capital, and an additional $15,000 that is new, but we already agreed to and signed the contract for phase 2. There's a possibility that this could be lower if we get additional money from ICRMT again. So we could get another $10,000 from them, and then this would only be $5,000. But it's kind of unknown, and they weren't as optimistic as I was hoping they would be when we thought we were going to get another $10,000. So.
They said we couldn't do it back to back, is that what they said?
Yeah, so he emailed saying it's hard to get approved for the maximum grant back to back, but I thought that we were always told in the past that our county has $10,000 worth of grant money every year, so that we should apply for it. So we're gonna apply for it, we'll see what happens. Worst they can say is no, so. This is for Kevin's excavator. He got that, I believe, last year. So we still have, several years of payments on it. And what these two together total $25,000. That's what we budgeted him for his excavator and truck. The truck lease is actually more than this, but he pays the rest out of county general. This is for the tractor that Kevin got. Actually, the excavator I think is from 2 years ago, and the tractor is what he got last year. So this is the continue on the payment. Here's your voting equipment that you guys signed for earlier in the year. I believe this is a 5-year amount. This is your voting booths that you agreed to earlier in the year, and it's a one-time charge. So we may need more voting booths, but for these, it's a one-time charge. And this is the body armor for court security.
Angie, one correction on that. That's actually for patrol. The court security is paid for out of the grant we got. We got 5 vests for court security. That was paid for out of that grant we got through COPS. And so this was actually for they got vests, but they're actually custom fit and they don't fit properly. So we got to get for the 4 new hires we got last year.
So I put down here in your new ones, body armor for your deputies, but I didn't think we had actually bought these for court security.
Yeah, we've got those ordered.
You do have them
It
ordered.
takes about 2.5 months. We ordered them in beginning of September.
Did we pay for them already?
Not yet.
And then the grant covers 50%, right?
Correct.
Do you know how much the total will be?
It's going to be around $2,000, I think.
$2,000 total or our part? will be?
Our
part.
Okay, so this could probably be $2,000 then instead of $4,500. I would assume. Because that's what this one is the,
I'll get you.
Because they're paying half, and I think it's about $800 for one.
Yeah, there was
Right around there.
4,000, it would have been $4,000 with that in the carrier for them, so yeah, $2,000. And I will double check that to make sure, but you want to put 2,000 down there.
okay. Okay, so that's for the ones for the court security that we've ordered but haven't paid for. And down lower, you'll see the ones for the deputies. So this is what I talked to you guys about with the jail bill. Okay, so let me go back. So after this stuff is said and done, which is the stuff you've already agreed to, it's subtracted from the 259. It left you with 84,420. Hold on. Okay, it did go up. I thought it went down, which didn't make sense. Okay, so left with 84,420. So this is the one thing that when I was emailing you saying, if you don't feel that $61,000 is enough to cover your jail bill, you'll want to take some more money out of this to cover it. I think from talking to most of you, we are really hoping that that is enough. So moving on to the next set of requests, we have County Highway has requested a pole barn, which approximately $50,000, and a new skid steer. I've talked to Kevin about both of these purchases. He was very good to work with, and we believe that we can actually get both of these purchases paid for out of his department. I believe Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, his intention is to first purchase the skid steer and then kind of see how things are playing out, and if it all works out, purchase the pole barn.
Correct.
Okay. So the way the spreadsheet is set up right now is if anything you want to approve for a fact, I will change it to a yes. It will deduct from this total, and it will let you know how much money that you still have to go. So you'll notice even if you put yeses by these two for Kevin, I've budgeted them so that they can come out of his highway department budget and not out of the capital budget, so your total here stays the same. So that's those. We have, I can change this back, but the ambulance department has requested a new camera system for their facility. He got a quote. It was actually $9,000 some odd dollars, but we think that we can get it back down to $8,000 by making some changes. So, and then they've also requested a cardiac monitor. I think ours are really old, and we talked about that they're going to need one of these for the next 3 years. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. One a year for the next 3 years to be able to replace them. This is for a used cardiac monitor. If you want to buy a brand new cardiac monitor, it's going to be closer to $40,000 than $22,000. And then this is also for the ambulance department, which is, if you remember the image trend contract that you have tabled for the last few board meetings, the actual cost of the contract is already in the budget. This is for the CAD part, which is the reason you keep tabling it. We don't know yet if we're going to be able to integrate this in. We're still having meetings about it. So I broke that out and put it out here. It would be an additional $3,500 a year for the CAD part.
Real quick,
Anything I
sorry.
missed on yours?
What?
That would go down a little bit
For what?
on our maintenance after the first year.
I don't know without looking, I mean, it's still per year.
But I don't think it's the full
But for the
$3,500.
first year, you're just saying though, for the first year, that's what we would be in.
For the CAD. And plus, it could be more if we have to pay a vendor
For
to
the-
set it up.
Yeah, that's whatever that fee was for that. Monitors, I was just going to note really quick on that. Besides our monitors just being old, they're actually phased out. So they're no longer in production. The parts are no longer in production is the big hang up. So in 3 years, there will
We've got between 2 and 3 years left
2
under
to 3
federal law. Yeah.
years. So if we don't start trying to purchase the new monitors now, we'll get stuck at some point, maybe potentially having to buy more than one in the same year because we won't be able to fix or repair what we have now, just side note.
Then the next item on the list for capital is building money for animal control. As you all know, we are in the process of trying to get a contract for the piece of land out there from the city of Anna, and then with hopes that Dirk can get a grant and we can build an animal control facility. He does believe that most of the grants, including the one that he's been looking at, has some matching money. And so I asked him, so what are you needing in order to get these grants? His estimate was probably $30,000. So that's what is in there for the animal control building. Obviously, it's not the whole amount, but we're hoping the rest of the amount will come from a grant. Next, I have a couple requests. The county clerk's office has $1,000 for an increase in office supplies and $2,000 for an increase in travel. Talking to Lance, the travel budget, his concern is that, that he travels to go to the meetings, and that's how he's identified some grants, some rather larger grants that have come back to the county. So that's why he was asking for an increase in travel. Did I miss anything on the
Training, well, some training with Fiddler and our reporting too. There's send some staff to those as well next year for a college for like a 2-day thing with Fiddler, our recording company as well, so I can send staff there because it's actually geared towards the staff that runs it every day. And so I was trying to get that to send one of the 2 my employees up there for that.
Next thing on the list is, it's kind of a combined request for some part-time money. In last year's budget, we budgeted, I believe, $7,000 up in contingencies to move down for part-time help for Lance and Lee if they needed it during certain times in their office. We did use all of that last time, but we didn't have to take it out of contingencies because Lee's office was short an employee for a certain amount of time. So actually she covered the part-time employee cost without taking it out from there. The request is back again this year in hopes to get help during busy tax sale time, tax payment time. And then for Lance, he has some records that need to be scanned for a couple reasons. One, people who pay for the online subscription can then have access to more records in hopes to get more people to sign it up. The further back we can go in years. And then also just for safety, so in case there's a fire or anything like that, we have a backup copy of the record. So I have it combined in there for the treasurer and the county clerk. And then at the same time, the individual that they're looking at is a great employee. She is very good at taking on projects and running with it. She's the one that started drafting the county change name process, when a road name change process whenever I was busy. So there are also some projects that both Angela and I probably have that we could use some help on from time to time throughout the year. So that's why I said it's kind of a combined request just for some part-time help when any of the offices need it.
Angie, I just wanted to throw in there too, the county needs to implement the time clock project this year coming up, and having somebody possibly to help with that and assist. This part-time employee is methodical, she's competent, self-directed. It would be great to have that possibly to rely on.
And same with my end of it. We have things that are indexed in that are, the images aren't there. That's kind of responsible. It's important that we match those up. I feel like she would do a fantastic job. And the more we can get those images available online, the more money we can make back from people doing title searches or any type of land record searches or anything like that. So she's a great employee.
She's been with us for what, 4 years?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
she's been with us for 4 years, so she's just incredible.
Next thing on the list is from the circuit clerk. She is also requesting to increase her travel budget. She said there's just more meetings that she needs to go to, and that some mandatory, some that I think are just beneficial. So she has requested an additional $1,000 in her travel budget. The next one I really wish Tammy was here to explain, but she is not. This is from Tammy. It is for enhanced wedge site. It is my understanding that it would allow the public to log onto our website and view the aerials of their properties themselves versus coming in here and getting a printout from the assessor's office. That's my understanding of it.
Jackson County's got that.
Okay, so that sounds right, okay. Next on the list, I have, from the sheriff, we have a request for 2 new vehicles. As you will see in his budget for this past year. Let's get to the sheriff. Where's your maintenance? Here we go. He had a maintenance budget of $19,000 this year. We went over almost double to 37,000. A lot of that due to items going wrong on the vehicles. So he had, I don't know, do you remember any of the big expenses?
Yeah, we had one car that, two turbos, one out of transmission, transfer case, so I mean, we spent $10,000 on one car, so.
Is that if you had a new vehicle, is that the
it's
car
gonna
you
be
get
one
rid
to be
of?
replaced.
Okay.
It's one of the old Tauruses.
So those are those requests. These two are already agreed to. This is the money that we put in the budget last year out of the anti-crime and DUI funds for the radios, but we didn't spend it yet because we weren't to that point in the phase. And then, 5961 of this one is from last year's, and 2,500 is for this year, and 2,500 is for this year on this one. So, but we've already agreed to it.
Yeah, that first installment was what, 35,000, and you
Yes.
took like 15, just some of it come out of 911.
911 paid all of it, and then
And then we paid,
like 15,000, I think, or something
yeah,
like
the
that.
balance of that first installment, yeah.
Yes. And then also from the sheriff's DUI fund, we have the 4 new body armors for the deputies. That's what the sheriff was talking about earlier for his new deputies, and then 8 new carriers for his deputies. So with all that said, that's all of your requests that you have for the year. I don't know if there's any that you want me to go ahead and put on here, that we can start deducting down and deciding which ones that you want to approve. That's what we have left to do.
Angie, I'll just go ahead and make it easy for them. Go ahead and take them first 2 off there.
They're out of your budget.
I'll be in my budget, they're out of yours, right?
Yes, so that's why I said, even if they say these, they're coming out of your budget.
Mhm.
So we know you have the money there for the skid steer, and if things play out the way we think they're gonna play out, then you would have the money there for a pole barn. So, so these aren't really deducting from this amount, so we can put the yeses there. Then you have the,
If they're coming out of his budget, could his budget be reduced then? I mean, sorry about saying that, Kevin, but if you've got the money going into his budget for those, and he doesn't need them, you could lower his budget, whatever that amount might be.
in theory, you could lower his budget if that's what you chose to do. However, his budget is also is volatile, the word I'm looking for, where you just, at this point, we don't know what we're gonna get in for highway department. I mean, we're taking some big guesses, and if some of the revenue doesn't come in, I guess my opinion and what I would suggest is to leave his budget and tell Kevin these 2 things need to be paid from it, and then he'll know later in the year if things are coming in and he can afford to pay for this, or he can't afford to pay for it.
Yeah, we've done the best we can with my budget, but literally you could increase or decrease my budget $500 million across the lines, and it's not gonna make any difference in what you're spending because of the flexibility and volatility of what's coming in and what's going out this year.
But you see what I was getting at?
Yeah, we've done the best we can on balancing it, but it's a shot in the dark.
And the way, just so you know, the way that I talked to Kevin about his budgets this year, and we had put more money into his highway department fund for oil and chip, and we had put more money in his bridge fund for replacing these wooden bridges. Well, Kevin's department has far exceeded what we thought for time-wise to get these wooden bridges done. He's only got, I think you said 40 left, and you're gonna do 20 this winter?
37, I think, are done. And we'll get 15 to 20 of them this year.
Right, that we've already gotten the money in there for, that he's gonna replace.
By the end of the season, we'll have less than 20 wood deck bridges in the county.
And most of those bridges are longer ones that we wouldn't
we can't afford to replace
Right.
with our monies. They'll have to qualify for federal dollars. And they're only giving us enough money to do 1 to 2 a year. So we're still looking at probably 10 years to get rid of all of it.
So that additional money that 2 years ago you guys put into his bridge fund, we were in a predicament looking for money to come up with. Kevin and I talked and he said, take it back. We're in a good position with the bridges. We've got a bunch of them replaced. If that's what you guys need money, take that back. So we took that back out of his county bridge fund. I left the money in his county general fund because it fluctuates by so much.
Yeah, we've gone from 105 wood deck bridges to now around 36. And with a target of less than 20 next year, we're making some progress. And so giving that money back is not going to shorten this process. It's just, the problem is so large from here that that amount of money was not going to help.
So
But I'm getting a plan, don't worry.
Sure you would.
I'll start here because I think this should
I
be
think
a
that's a,
fairly easy one. Is everyone in
That's a
agreement
yes.
that you're gonna put $30,000 towards building an animal control facility?
yeah, I mean.
Okay.
that's a good-
Is everyone in agreement that Scott's getting at least one vehicle?
I am, I would like to wait, I think we've talked about this till closer to July, till we see how all this is gonna go. Realizing that it takes time for you to do that, I mean, they won't start before then, but.
Well, if we could take a look at it maybe in April and see where
Right,
we're at,
right.
and then if things look good, then maybe I can go ahead and order, because we're looking at 2 months to get the car.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm in September, October
Yeah.
before I get one.
I mean, hopefully by April, we're gonna know how some of this is playing out, but yeah, I personally say yes to that.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
you got 2 that will come to happen this year.
Right.
Yeah.
While I'm down here, everyone in agreement for these 4 new body armors and 8 new carriers that are gonna come out of the sheriff's DUI fund anyway, which won't come off your capital?
Yes.
Yeah, I need that body armor.
Okay, now I'm gonna scroll up here and say, is everyone in agreement that we want a cardiac monitor for the ambulance? Okay, I thought I'd just start with those easy ones for you guys, and then now you can make the harder decisions. So really, you're left with $12,290 left. Your options are the ambulance cameras, the image trend, which also, these could be, you could say yes, but we wanna pay for them out of the ambulance budget and not out of capital. You have the county clerks, office supplies and travel, the part-time help, combined request, circuit clerk travel, assessor's enhanced website. Again, if this is yes, it's actually gonna come out of recorder's GIS. However, I will tell you that that fund is running lower and lower every year because it pays for a flyover. So I caution you that if you say yes to this, there will come a time a couple years from now where the general fund will possibly be paying for that.
To answer for her though, there's $4 more for each recording going into the GIS fund now for her.
Yeah.
So she will look at a new revenue stream that should cover that. I'm speaking for her, I'm not, but I'm just letting you know, the GIS fund, we did raise that fund this year with our new recording fees, so she will have some extra.
What's your recording here?
She gets $14 every one and I get $1 of it.
A total recording, so much.
I don't know, I don't have that in front of me right now. We're 20,
2,000, you're talking about number?
yeah, it's like we're at 20, we're like 20, where are we at the numbers right now? 24, 26, somewhere in there, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fine.
Or where we're projected to be at, I think.
I personally think that, you know, and again, we're basing everything that you're on a bet to come on a lot of this. I would rather hold off on that until next year's budget, to see if in fact those funds come through.
You're talking about this, right?
You know, there's a website that I use, it's called Hunt, that gives an overview of all the properties, who owns them.
Google Maps.
Yeah, I mean, but this Onyx Hunt is just an amazing app. I don't know, made tied to the courthouse somehow, but it gives the property owner their address, every bit of information that's available. I think right now, I'm like Max, let's hold that off. There's other avenues that they do want it, let them come in.
I mean, everybody expressed their opinion on this because I mean, I'm not, I'm just throwing it out there, so.
I think we can hold up. Yeah.
Fine. Could we interject some ambulance? We had originally talked about on the image trend software that we can handle this through our budget because we have saved so much money since we put the VIN system in. It is going to be able to pay for that software. We started off spending around $60,000 a year. We've gotten it down below 50 using the vending system where we can rotate our stock and watch our inventory all the time. And so we're going to be able to handle that from our budget, and that frees up $3,500.
I'm good with
Well,
that. taking
with
it
that-
out of your budget, yeah.
With that being said, you can still put, I can delete that from that. And then, with that being said, it can go over here, go under the ambulance budget. You can say, yes, I can put it in their budget. And if it doesn't work out to where we can do the CAD, then you'll just have, you just won't spend the $3,500 in your budget or
It
on
would be
something else.
less.
I mean, again, personally, I would like to see the 8,000 the same way. I mean, I know you don't want your amount getting very low, but at the same time, I feel like that's I don't know how soon you have to do that, or wanting to do that.
You're talking about the cameras?
Yeah. If we can,
It's needing to be done. I mean,
yeah,
Is this what you're wanting to see, Matt? That right now, the ambulance department has, after their projections for this year, will end the year at 382,000.
I mean, I feel like that's a healthy amount. Yeah, we don't want it to get much lower than that. But on the same token, and again, coming on a bet here, I feel like you're gonna have a little more income coming in, that we're getting all this stuff put in place with the hospital. But I would like to see that showing up on paper before, but again, I'm just speaking to me. You guys, I'm not making the decisions here, so. I mean, what do you think about that, Grant? I mean, is that?
are you talking, what do I think about getting the camera system, or what do I think about us trying to show
Oh,
our budget?
I think you need the camera system, but as far as that coming out of your line item.
for your buildings?
Yes. I think we can work and watch our money the next few months. I mean, the cardiac monitor, for me personally, is a must for the public as we start this exchange of getting rid of older equipment and getting newer. The image trend, we've already explained, we worked real hard at doing this inventory system, and it has saved money, so we can pay for that.
Do we have anything left in this year's budget in building?
A whole lot, I haven't looked. It's been a while.
I didn't know if it would be something to where, if we're getting it through mayor, if we could maybe make it in payments to where we made some of it out of this year's budget if we had some left over, and then
We'll
possibly,
split that up.
like maybe split it. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, 'cause I was thinking we had.
Yeah. So this year, it looks to me like you have $3,400 that you've spent on a $6,500 budget. So you do have money there, but either way, if it's gonna be paid out of yours, it doesn't really matter which year, because if you look here, if I increase what you spent this year, it's gonna decrease this number. If I increase what you spend next year, it's gonna decrease this number. It's gonna be the same. So whichever year you do it, it's just whether if they pay for it out of capital, it won't decrease that number. If it pays for out of your budget, it will, and it doesn't matter what year.
And I think that's a good idea to talk to Mayor. I think he'll work with us on not having to work it all. I'm speaking out of school here. I don't know.
Yeah.
He may say, no, that's his business, but I think that would be, again, to slow down your expenditure out of your money and hopefully build it up more as we go, so.
So is everybody good with yes, and it goes in the ambulance budget? That's what I seem to be hearing.
It's okay.
Yes, yes. Okay, so it still leaves you with the same 12, sorry, Max.
Wanting to reiterate to you, I know you're concerned about your budget just like everybody is. And, you know, I know we'll be looking, and like we told you, that I'm restating that when it comes time for a new ambulance, we're gonna have the money. So, okay?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
So it leaves you with the same 12,290 and the following request. The office supplies of $1,000 for the county clerk, travel for the county clerk of 2,000, part-time employee for 8,000, circuit clerk travel for 1,000. You guys said no to this, and then sheriff's vehicle, well, you don't have really enough for a second one. So you have these, if you approve, if you don't.
12,000, Angie.
Do what?
Those add up to right at the 12. Those four right there. Right.
That's funny, that actually they do add up to, you'd still have $290. But again, it's up to you how you spend your money, or you can tell me to put it aside, like, whatever you want to do with it.
Me personally, that's great that it works out that way. I'm not in favor of increasing travel that much on either one of those.
Is there a lower amount, you guys? I put their request in here, but if you guys want something different, I'll change it. It will reflect it. So whatever you want to.
I had $500 for my travel. I've spent probably, and 1,000 over that for me personally going to things, but there's been a lot of good things I've obtained from getting out and going to those conferences and different, events and things. And like she did say, and I'm not trying to, but there was 2 big grants that we've gotten that more than cover that, which is fine. But I did learn quite a bit from that, so.
That includes training.
Yeah.
Yeah, training and travel, we've been combining in the budget as one for most departments. And I will say that Tiffany's request for travel was actually $600 to $1,000, but I can't put a range and make my spreadsheet work. So I put the higher end of her request. So her original request was $600 to $1,000.
Why don't we lower both of them to 500? You said that would work for you, Lance?
That's what I have now is 500.
Oh,
No,
I'm
you
sorry, I
haven't.
thought that was the increase.
That's 500.
It said travel's increased, so that's what I thought.
Sorry, I figured 500.
But the way it reads, it's an increase, so.
Is that what you want? Sorry, I was. That takes you down to 11,290.
I personally would like to see that part-time employee. I think she probably will earn most of her money for the county. That's my opinion. Part-time help is good. Our budget's tight anyways, but it appears from what everybody said, she might be able to make half her money back or more. That's just my opinion.
Well, I'm okay with it as long as it is a shared deal and it's not in just one office, because I feel like, and this is probably a question on you, you've got another employee now, and I understand she's still learning, but I don't want to get overloaded on more employees. I agree that's probably needed and get a lot done. But I want to see, personally, I want to see some results on all the things that you're saying that needs to get done. Granted, I think she's a great employee. I'm not questioning her work ethic or anything like that.
How many hours does that work out to be with 8,000? Was it like 500?
8,552 hours.
That's
Can you,
at 14.7
some
an
stupid,
hour.
can you to keep a separate log of which office, which she's actually the
You could probably work out something like that, no problem.
She has a time sheet, so.
Yeah,
And I'll add to that, I hadn't thought about the time clock issue, and that keeps getting put to the back burner, and that needs to get done sooner than later. So
I'm good with it.
that would be a share out of our department, so,
So yes? Okay. So it takes you down to 3290. Again, I didn't put it, this amount of money is not gonna work out to zero, because the requests are different than the amount of money, so, you've answered, you kinda answered this one, because you don't have the money in there, you've answered that one, so the only other request is Lance's.
and I'll throw in what we're gonna use that, my copier's got a $600 part, and then that needs replaced. And as well, with 2 elections, this unknown of what's coming up with the 2020 stuff, we go through a lot of supplies and things, and that's why I asked for that, that was a total guess, and then like I said, my copier the past 2 weeks now is throwing up this issue, so that's why we could use it, and for another 1,000, because like I said, that's 600 of it's going to the copier, the other 400 I can definitely use in ink and all kinds of other stuff that's gonna be.
Yes? All right, so that was really all the questions that I have for you, and then I just have to go back and reflect these into the budget.
so do we have the max in contingency that we can now, according dollar-wise?
We do. It will change a little bit, and I'll probably put some more of this in there, because when I go, and this is silly, but when I go and increase Lance's office supplies and Lance and Tiffany's travel and the part-time, our expenses will go up, so I can actually, 3% of the higher expenses will be a little bit more.
Well, I just don't want to lose that 22, whatever
No.
it is, I mean.
No, in a worst-case scenario, if I can't put any more contingencies, I would put it in to transfer to courthouse repair and maintenance. And so we would have it in that fund if we needed it. So, but you may be able to get this much more into contingencies. I don't know how big of items are going in here. No, probably not that much.
If you make these changes, what's our next situation with the budget?
What's the next situation? So if this is if everybody's good with these changes and you don't have any questions on any of the rest of the budgeted funds that I had emailed out, I don't think you want to go through all 100 of them. We can, but so basically I'll make these changes today, post it in the county clerk's office for 15 days. Any changes anyone has, I've emailed all the office holders yesterday their full budgets. So, and we have 15 days to make any changes, and then at your next board meeting in December, which would be December 13th, you could vote on the budget. And if anyone came to me with any changes or anything like that between now and then, I would share that information with you guys, and you'd have to decide then whether you're changing it or not.
So do we need a motion to post this as a,
Yes.
as a what?
Tentative.
I'm second.
Mr. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Toller?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
I will, and I want to stress this because I personally am very proud of this, proud of the board. Like I said earlier, I'm proud of everybody that worked on this. Realizing that we were basically approximately $280,000 in the hole when we started this. As I always say, unfortunately, in Union County, our expenses outweigh our income. And that continues to grow each year. And that's basically what it is. Estimate on revenue of 4.9 million, expenses 5.2. You can't continue to do that and stay ahead. But I will tell you this, and I'm gonna tout her horn. Like it or not, she's good.
She is good.
She's very good.
And
She is very good.
I so much appreciate that. It's kept us out of the newspaper like all the counties around us. And I think, you know, everybody didn't get everything they asked for, I understand that. But I think the board has been very fair. We've not laid off anybody. We're getting most of the stuff we want. We're not gonna let anybody go broke. And I'm just saying, I appreciate everybody's efforts, and I think this is ought to be the headlines in the newspaper for example. So
Next,
that's all I got to say. Yep.
With the previous work of the boards, and I know Max was part of that, Bobby, I know you were part of it. Dale, I don't know how long you've been on it, but we wouldn't have gotten an A+ rating on this bond refinancing and an A+ rating for this county without the work of they've done the last several years, plus what Angie has contributed to this process. And ultimately, as Max knows, and Angie, it saved the citizens an awful lot of money in this mass debt. And so it's just amazing the finances that they've changed from years ago.
Anybody else have anything to bring up or say or add?
Good job.
Don't be bashful. Good job.
Basically, thanks to everybody, all our, just for a good job.
Yeah, thanks to everybody.
So we've got 15 days, once she gets this posted, if we want to change a little bit of this or do something else with that other $2,900, we can. But if anybody has something to say about it or come up with something different, just need to enter it in, so. Do I have a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Pitts?
Yep.
Mr. Toller?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?